All right, cool. We got audio, and then what's your last name again, brother?
So it's Ravi Abuvala, like A-B-U-V.
Ravi Abuvala?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to hit record and fucking remember that shit real quick. Ravi Abuvala.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob, try to see how close he is to the mic.
Oh yeah, sorry. You gotta be like,
Oh,
gotta be all up in this with your radio voice, because these are directional mics. Coming to you live and in person in the studio.
Cool DJ Rav and Andy here.
All right, you're gonna have to fucking hit me one more time. I will literally remember both of your faces for the rest of my life. Your fucking names are like,
Ravi Abuvala. Ravi
Abuvala.
Yeah, that's right.
What's up, everybody? Today we have Ravi Abuvala. How was that?
That was honestly perfect.
Yes,
yeah, that was
I
good.
got it.
I have family members that still mess it up for me,
So that was take 4 to get his name, because I hate messing up people's name. I think it's disrespectful, but I do it all the time. So welcome to the show, my man.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
We have a guest in here today, young man, 25, built some really, really cool shit, and he's going to share with us kind of his journey, where he came from, how he got into the entrepreneur space. We met at a couple different speaking gigs, one in Florida, one here in LA. I just wanted him to share a story, and he's in the real estate space too. He's doing some stuff with Grant Cardone right now, so we're going to touch on all that, but welcome to the show, brother.
I appreciate you having me here, man. Yeah, this is awesome. I'm fangirling a little bit. I saw, like I said before we got live here, a lot of the stuff you had talked about. I've done a lot of residential stuff, but never any investing stuff. And then I was at that event in Tampa, and you had just said everything that I was just like, I know I need to be doing all of this stuff right now. And just like even before I started investing into stocks, like even just long-term, not S&P, not trying to play the game, even then I thought that stocks was like the biggest, hardest thing in the whole world. And then my roommate is a financial consultant, and we set up an automatic investing thing in like maybe 8 minutes. And I was in Medellin, Colombia when he did it. And I was like, wow, it's just crazy how much fear plays a role in a lot of the actions and changes that you take in life. And so now I'm getting, like I told you, we're about to do our first real estate investment deal in the next 14 days. And like, even that's been almost a relative breeze compared to what I actually thought was involved in it. So it's kind of crazy for me.
And there's so many fears, man, that aren't necessarily yours. Like you learned them from like
parents,
everything around
school,
you, how you
media,
dude, all that stuff. Like I tell people all the time, like, make sure those fears are yours.
That's well said. Yeah, I've never heard that before. That's actually really smart.
Because there's plenty of fears that were my grandma's. I'm like, Grandma, I love you, but I'm not you.
Yep.
I'm going to go way harder.
It's funny, and we'll get into my story here in a little bit, but I still remember this day I tell this story. Like I got on Fox News a few months ago for actually my real estate lead generation company for some of the numbers that we hit. And I thought it was relatively big news. Like I was super stoked about it. And I still remember the day my grandma and my aunt calling me. And I'm from, my dad's from India, so I'm Indian originally. I'm actually going there in 2 weeks.
Nice.
And,
love that country. I'm tattooed with all kinds
of
Indian
very cool.
stuff.
Okay, we'll have to talk about
Big,
that.
huge Om on my chest.
Really?
Oh,
that's awesome. I'm going in 2 weeks. I'm headed there with my dad for 2 weeks. Yeah, that's awesome.
So jealous.
So I still remember my aunt and my grandma, who I was in law school, dropped out. Like, so we'll get into that in a little bit.
They were disappointed.
They're literally, I like Fox News. Everyone was calling me, you on Fox News, congratulations. My aunt calls me like, hey, I saw you on Fox News, congrats. I'm like, thanks. They're like, so when are you going back to law school? And I was just like, all right, this is a lost cause.
Because they don't understand. In their minds, they truly believe you becoming a lawyer and an attorney means you're going to be successful.
Exactly.
That is not true. You know what the average attorney makes after they get out of
law school? Debt.
Dude, throw that in grandma's face.
I know.
Like
I know.
82 grand
Yeah.
plus debt for the next 10 years. This is a full sidebar, which I'm just going to take it because I feel like it. Like, and in real estate, it's the same thing. People pass the test to become a real estate professional, real estate agent, and they can legally go list a $20 million house. That should be illegal. It's like you passing the bar exam, going to the top firm in New York and be like, I'm $2,000 an hour, and I'm going to be a litigator tomorrow.
Yeah, pretty much.
You do not have the skill set to pull that off.
The knowledge, the skill set. I mean, I remember when I took the real estate test too, it was just like, I did it over a weekend, and I was just like, wow, this is like a lot easier than I thought. And then it made sense for when we were working with real estate agents. Like one of the biggest things I learned when I was going through the whole process personally was just like the sales. Like there's no sales training, like nothing.
It's how not to get sued.
Yeah, that's literally, it's like a technical test.
That's it.
And then it started making sense to me when real estate agents were coming to me, and I'm like, and then the numbers, like, 60% making less than 40, whatever the numbers are, it all started adding up to me at that point. And it's just, you go back to even the school system in general. Once again, we won't go on a tangent, but it's
Broken.
just like, exactly, it goes back to that. It's like, well, when you really look at how people are being raised and the morals and everything that's being instilled inside of them, the fears, then it all starts adding up. Like, oh, no wonder 76% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. No wonder people, when they retire, have like less than 2 years worth of savings in their savings account. It's all by design. It's exactly. It's a little scary, honestly. It's super terrifying. And like you said, I'm 25. Unless you know. And I'm 25 and I don't know anything yet. Like, I'm just trying to figure it all out. But I think the biggest part of that is just being aware of it in the first place, like, and
there's
then you
a big
can start
sham
making decisions.
Going on.
You'd just be like, well, not everything that everybody tells you, even if they're your parents, is 100% the gospel. You know what I mean? Like, you should start asking questions earlier on and just being like, well, he didn't go to college and he's doing a lot better than you. You know what I mean? And that goes back to, I stopped
listening to my parents a long time ago. I'm like, you're poor. I'm taking zero financial advice from you. I love you. You're my mom. But like, you don't have any kind of financial literacy. Therefore, what authority do you have to teach me?
You. Yeah.
Right. And then my dad, total opposite, thought he knew nothing. And I'm like, well, I'm not telling it. You've been married 5 times. You're not giving me like advice on relationships either, bro. Like, enough of the two of you. So I grew up really fast, but that's the thing. Like, there's all these perceptions that people feel are real. And I've done a lot of work on myself and a lot of self-development. But like, some of the stuff that I thought for sure was real in my childhood, like, that wasn't. Like, it was kind of true, but like, I talked to my mom and she's like, no, that's not where we lived. And I'm like, what? It's
actually scary how sometimes if someone tells you something over and over and over again, and then you're brainwashed to it, and then you start saying it over and over again, it becomes the truth to you. But in reality, like, it could be a totally different story. I mean, I've even noticed it on myself. And you sometimes, like, when you embellish stories and like, yeah, we did this and we did that, and and then later on someone's like recalling it with you and was like, we didn't do any of that. And you'd been saying it for 10 years the same way, and then you're like, wow, like, what other stuff in my life am I just so blinded by because of either the perceptions of myself or perceptions and thoughts of others? It's just, once again, goes back to just having full awareness, like, on everything in your life, and just understanding that, I don't want to sound like, now we're really getting into some kind of Joe Rogan saying that everything's a lie, but just saying that.
But I like, that's why I don't really plan for podcasts, because like, I don't lay out like, we're going to talk about this, and this.
Yeah, you're just like, all right, we're turning this on.
I feel the vibe, and then that's where we roll. Like,
I like it.
Because I feel that like, that's kind of like divinely guided. Like whatever you and I will share today, somebody needs to hear.
Sure.
Right? So I just stay in that space. And that's the whole thing where like, so many people were told being a lawyer, being an attorney, being a doctor means successful. Do you know how many broken, miserable doctors and lawyers I know because they did it for the wrong reasons, and now they're stuck?
And then you resent the people that told you to do it in the first place.
Even though it's your fault for listening.
And like, that's what I even told my dad, and we can get into it in a little bit here, but I even told my dad when I just made the decision I'm not going to law school, like, one of the reasons I'm not doing this is so that I don't hate you in 20 years, because I hate my life, and I'm going to hate you because you were the one that told me. And it goes back to being, your mom not being financially literate and her telling you, everybody in my life that was telling me to be a lawyer, none of them were lawyers.
100%.
And then the people I had dinner with, my dad was taking me to dinners with all these lawyers because he could tell I was wavering on the law firm thing. He could tell I was wavering on law school. And dinner with all these lawyers, and 10 out of 10 lawyers you went to dinner with,
don't be lawyers.
I
get it, dude. I'm telling you, I have 12 investors. 9 of them are gnarly litigators. Not one of them actually really wants to do it, but they're so in it now, and they're so good.
You're committed.
You're full pot committed.
Yep.
But like, they'll tell you like, don't do it. And that's the other part about just kind of exploring other things. Now here's the thing. So when you're a kid, like, you're 10 and you're reading law books and it's your life's calling.
Exactly. Sure. Do it.
Go all in. Like, that's different. But when you're getting those internal pressures from family, and dude, I was pretty advanced as like a young man because I had to grow up really quick. Most people aren't. They're still so impressionable at 20, 22, 25 from their parents. Unless you've been out and traveled like you have and traveled the world, like, you don't have those perspectives. Most people, small town, maybe going to the big city for school. So like, their perspective is kind of from the outside.
Sure.
That's why intentional learning for me is so important. Like, when I'm in the car, I listen to podcasts.
Very cool.
I'm very mindful of what I put in my head. It's not like, what's Fox News have on?
Oh God.
Even though Fox News is dope, I've been on, it's great. But like, there's bigger things moving it. So for me, again, I'm very intentional. Same thing with social media. Like, there's people I don't follow that are my friends because I'm like, I'm just not about what your vibe is. So, and that leads us back into kind of like maybe walk the audience through, because now we know that you didn't go to law school, or you actually went to law school but didn't finish, and your dad thought he was going to pull a fast one on you. I would have loved to talk to your dad and be like, dude, do not take him to dinner with 10 attorneys. This is going to end bad for you if this is your game. So maybe walk them through where you grew up, if you have siblings, just like a little bit of a backstory, and where you got the bug to kind of be an entrepreneur and not go down that traditional path.
Yeah, sure. Awesome. So I'll keep it kind of summed up. Yeah, I grew up in Florida. Well, actually, born in Atlanta, then grew up in Florida. Loved my life in Florida. And have an older brother, younger sister. Older brother ended up opening up 2 restaurants in the state of Florida. I was his first employee. I was washing dishes, right?
Nice, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. I'll earn my keep. And my dad and my mom had a business in Atlanta as well. It's a wholesale gift industry. So they were like the internet back before the internet was there.
Had
right?
a huge warehouse,
exactly.
tons of inventory.
Yeah, people would come there. Barnes and Noble would come there, and they'd have sales reps, and they'd buy stuff from them. And they were like the middleman, essentially, right? You're wholesaling. And then the recession happened. Then the internet really started picking up as well. And, one thing led to another, and essentially they had to close their doors. And that actually turned me off of entrepreneurship, right? That was like...
Because it's scary, because you saw mom and dad do it.
What happened to them, and I saw the ripple effects on their life, personal lives, et cetera, et cetera. And so I was a little scared by that. And then what was a safe and secure thing? I'd watch every episode of Law & Order. There's that TV series Suits. Like, once again, the media and society telling you that being a lawyer is sexy and, like, it's
safe.
Fun, you make money, it's safe.
So it's none of those things.
Well, let me...
It's none of those things, by the way.
And I was like, well, let me do law, right? Whatever, I'll just do that. And so my whole life, honors at Florida State. I worked for the Governor Rick Scott for a while as well, or Governor of Florida Rick Scott for a while. That was when I learned, once again, you go back to experiences, I don't want to go into public office. I thought I wanted to be public, like senator, or maybe president one day. And then I worked for Rick Scott, and I was like,
nope.
Hell no. I am not, like, because guess who actually has the power is the people with money. And once again, that falls back to me being like, well, I need to make a lot of money if I want to change the world. And so graduated college. Luckily, I had a very close friend who was actually my dad's neighbor who... He was actually a paid consultant to get overseas students from China and India into the top law schools in the nation. And so he was like... And
it's like a savage recruiter.
Pretty much, yeah. And he was like... Even his own daughter didn't go to law school. She went to Cornell and Harvard, MBA. She works in HR. But he was like pushing me to be law school, which is because I told him that's what I wanted. He's an incredible guy. We're very, very close. And he was like, look, you need to take a year off after you graduate college. You need to spend every single day for a year studying for the law school admission tests. Because the only way you're going to get in a top 10 law school, and that's the only way you're going to come out making $150K a year and make money, which is everything was based on money, was if you take a year off and study for this. So I was like, okay. So graduated from college. I said, this next year is a gap year. I'm not traveling. I'm just staying inside my hometown in Florida. I'm going to study every day. Pretty much 3-4 days after I graduated, get a call from my dad. He lives in Atlanta. My mom and dad are divorced. He was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And he didn't have any, he doesn't live with anybody, he doesn't have anybody. Yeah, it was honestly really scary. And so packed my stuff back up, moved up to Atlanta, Georgia with him. And then for a year, 5 days a week, from 8 a.m. to like 5 p.m., we went to chemo and radiation at the hospital with him. And then the same time I'm doing chemo and radiation before, and then when I got home until about midnight at night, I'm studying for law school. So I'm like sitting there, Dad's got an IV in his arm, and I'm like, had my law school book open right here. And not to sound cheesy or anything, but it was like just during that whole process after a year of doing that like, I saw there's kids in there. I mean, there's like 8-10-year-old kids. Then there's like 30-year-old guys who thought that they had their life ahead of them.
Perspective. You got
perspective.
Real perspective.
Huge perspective, right? I'll never say that like cancer is a good thing, but I will say, like we had talked about earlier, things happening for a reason, the universe, divine, all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, wow, there are a lot of signs going on right now. And then I remember reading a great book, which I'm sure you read it, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Incredible book. And I was just like, it says the exact same thing. Everything that we're making decisions on are based off what other people want for us. And I pretty much, after I read it, I was like, came downstairs and I told my dad, like, I'm not going to be a lawyer. He's like, this is a huge mistake. Let me take you out to these dinners with these other lawyers.
I'll fix this.
Yeah, exactly. That obviously didn't work out. And then finally I was like, you know what? I'm doing it. And I ended up taking the law school admission test because I already spent a whole year for it, and it's good for 5 years. I scored in the top 10 percentile of test takers in the nation. I got into the schools of my dreams, and like everyone thought I was going there, and then I was just like, I'm not going to do this. Ended up putting an application into an Italian restaurant down the road. Like, and you got to keep in mind, like my family's eyes, I went from like potentially being a law school protege to now working at an Italian restaurant serving breadsticks. And whole roller coaster from there. I pretty much got into like online digital marketing at that point. I just was getting retargeted with Ty Lopez's ads. Like, you know, you can create an online business. He went
hard too.
He went real hard on it, real hard. But that's the other great thing about social media. Everyone knocks it. And I was like, I just saw other people that were, I was like, all right, well, that idiot can do it. I can 100% do it.
That's why I got into real estate.
Yeah, exactly. So I pretty much was like, okay, I'm going to start a business. I started the online marketing game. Ended up moving out of my dad's house into my brother's couch in Florida. He was running his restaurants. I was doing marketing. I was doing marketing for him. And then I kind of slowly transitioned into real estate just because I lived in you're familiar relatively with Florida. You know, like Destin, Florida? Or yeah, okay. So that's where I lived in Florida. That's my family has restaurants. And everyone there is a real estate agent, right? Yep. And and
they probably all go to your
restaurants. Oh, exactly. And, you know, he has a huge brand name there. My brother's always been incredibly supportive for me. My whole family has. And he was telling people about me. All these real estate agents were reaching out to me. And I eventually was like, okay. I had heard nightmares of working with real estate agents, if I'm being honest with you. I heard nightmares of real estate agents and doing lead generation, and it's not possible. And so I always stayed away from it. And then I still remember one of my close family friends was like, I'll give you $4,000 this month if you can generate me some buyer leads for this house. And I'm like, well, that is $4,000 more than I made the last 6 months. So you got yourself a deal. And pretty much, very long story shorter, I worked with her. We had some incredible results pretty much right off the bat. And then I started learning a lot more about real estate. Then I learned about scaling businesses, and I learned about choosing one niche, one offer, one industry. And I was like, you know what? Even though I didn't want to go down real estate originally, let's just go down this rabbit hole. Started taking on only real estate agents, started systemizing the campaign. We did Facebook, Google, YouTube. We figured out what works. I mean, we spent over 7 figures on ads online just for real estate agents only. Then I learned one of the biggest problems with real estate agents, this is even before Zillow and Realtor.com.
Their follow-up is terrible? They're the worst on earth?
Actually terrible. And this is before Realtor, Zillow, or anything had any other programs. And I was one of the first people, as far as I'm concerned, that I was like, wait, what if we not only generated leads, but then qualified them?
Massaged them.
Exactly. And got them to a live transfer, a booked appointment. And that was really where I saw insane growth in my company. We were one of the only people offering it. And then all of a sudden it was like 3 clients, 10 agents, 30 agents, 100 agents. We're a little over 200 clients we have right now in North America doing monthly lead generation for them. And that was, I mean, the numbers, you know them as well. Like, you know, getting to, leads are coming in after 5 p.m., before 9 a.m. It's like 33% of leads come in Saturday and Sunday. So to expect a real estate agent to get to a lead within 5 minutes, unless they're just like have nothing, doing nothing else in their life, is a little unbelievable.
I get to mine.
Okay, that's fair, I'll say.
Because I got one literally right before we hit record. I got one from Realtor.com. Shout outs to Realtor.com because they hook it up. But like, I'm on it.
Did you text that lead right away?
Right away.
I love it. Okay. Well, and that's the thing. We go back to sales training. You're an animal. Like everyone here knows that you're an animal and that you teach people on it as well.
Yeah, I did it. Not my team, not my head buyer's agent, not my listing dude. Like, nope. You did it. Cut and paste from my notes in the thing with my website, all my data.
But the difference is that that's you. And what our problem was is I'm like, you should be calling these leads, Annie. Why are you not calling? Oh, I am calling these leads. It's like,
but
no.
I'm so busy.
And I'm like, and then it was just an argument back and forth. And finally I was like, what if I just took it out of your hands? I charge you a little bit more, and then we do everything for you.
Of course.
And then that was a lot easier than me arguing with every single client about.
Because you remove the friction.
Exactly.
Because you're a hustler, they're not. They want to do their certain amount of deals. You provided a service that lets them do that, and you could poke their eyes out for it. It was just like Realtor, like $78 a lead, whatever. Like, good for you. I'll pay $200. Give me qualified leads.
If it's good leads, exactly.
Yeah,
that's all the agents want. And that's taken off. I've now created multiple online advertising agencies. Now I teach other people how to scale their companies as well. We have a coaching program that I'm doing that also with, and then we also work with real estate investors, getting them leads also. And then, like I told you, now I'm trying to figure out, like, you know, what do I do with the money we're making right now? I don't want to just lose it all and be this flash in the pan. So now that's when we're starting to get exactly.
There's this awesome book called 100 Doors which you should definitely read. And I have an awesome idea for you.
Yeah.
And once we wrap this show, because I don't want this to be live in public to everybody.
Sure.
I've got some awesome ideas for
No,
you
I'm
to
super
get
stoked.
pieces of deals.
That's honestly one of the big reasons why we reached out to you in the first place too. I was like,
Yeah.
Lou, let's do the podcast because you and I both vibe on a lot of the same levels. But I was like, I need to talk to him about a lot of the other stuff, even show you some of the stuff that we're working on, because, you know, it's hard to find people you trust and really, really quality, genuine people that like don't have their hand in the pot, so they can see it at a very non-biased perspective. And so honestly, yeah, whether you wanted to or not, I was already had everything prepared for after this call.
Because dude, I want to help. Like, I love your fire one, but it's so cool for me to see somebody that was going in one direction, literally punted it all to go back and help family, and then really like sit in that experience and have that self-reflection of like, I'm sitting here in this hospital, my dad's getting chemo, I'm watching kids come in that are dying. Like, what do I really want to do with my life? Do I really want to just go to law school and make money and have a Lamborghini? Or do I want to make a fucking difference on this planet? So that's what really triggered me to be like, all right, I like this dude.
Awesome.
And then now you've gained my respect. So now I want to in turn help you back, be like, dude, here's what you're doing. What about this?
Yeah.
What about this? And you're like, fuck, I didn't think about that.
I know.
So that for me is why I love podcasting. I love social media. There's a lot of stuff I hate about it, but like the way you can communicate with somebody and then communicate your message and then be of service. Like, be of service at the highest level for your clients, for yourself, for your family. Dude, I love it.
You said the words, I mean, in this podcast and even before we started it, value, service, like those are all the things that are honestly lacking a little bit in some of the online world that we see today, and even just business in general. And so that's the other reason why we reached out to you as well. I mean, I've been consuming your content since that event in Tampa, and I was like, I like this guy a lot. But I know you provide an insane amount of value, never asked for anything, and that's a lot of the stuff that we do as well. But yeah, you've been to India, so I'm sure you believe in karma and all the kind of the universe. Yeah,
so big.
Exactly.
And I'm teaching it to my kids. Like,
Very
do you know
cool.
how cool it is to see my 4-year-old and 6-year-old sit in their bed in like mudras, doing like a meditation while I have sage and Palo Santo, and we've got like bells, and we're like, dude, it's
I
so
walked in here, I was like, man, it sounds good in here. You are zen as hell in here right now, man.
That's how we roll, and it's non-champa from India.
I love it.
Like, because it's the first time I smelt it, it like, I mean, it like literally changed my life. I was like, what is that? And it smelt old to me. Like, it smelt very familiar. Yeah, and I was like, I've never smelt this in this life. You know what I mean? So I was like,
What were you doing in India?
I have actually never been.
Okay.
So I've never been to India.
Gotcha.
But I got really big into yoga.
Very cool.
So when I was working for corporate America and I was a wine sommelier and selling tons of wine and got really fat and unhealthy and miserable and depressed for the first time in my life, I took a month off. And I got so happy and healthy in that month. And I'm like, I'm going to do more yoga. I'm going to do more meditations. This was like 14 years ago. And I'm going to race triathlons, and I'm going to get really healthy. I'm going to go from never racing in triathlon to be an elite professional in 1 year. Let's roll. And so I didn't work for a year and a half. I taught yoga at like $20 a class and just really got into this spiritual practice. And it was fun for me because I got to do a lot of ego work, right? I got to do a lot of work around like what's really important. If I take away all my money, how do I behave? So I literally ran it down to $400 was what I had left in the bank when I started my entire real estate career. I literally went to zero. And I'm like,
that's for everyone that's listening to this that says they don't have any money to start anything.
I don't have any money.
Yeah.
No. You have tons of money.
Yeah.
You just got to go out and get it. Like, it's all out there. Money's a tool. Once you change the relationship with it, the sky's the limit. Like, I use money as a hammer and a screwdriver and a blowtorch. So I got really into like the philosophies of the East, and I've always been really into it. But I mean, I got really into it. So I started to learn kind of like how I'm put together, how our brains work, and how some of these amazing philosophers from 10,000 years ago are right
Today.
Yeah. And how and I'm a firm believer in blending the West and the East.
Sure.
Like, there's stuff in the East, I'm like, how come you're going to let your kid die?
Yeah,
Give him some medicine.
I'm not going to touch that.
So like, I'm a firm believer in both. Like, you know, and I'm the same thing with all religions. Like, I take certain things from ones and I apply them to my life, and I punt the ones that don't fit.
I think that goes back to our awareness thing we were talking
100%.
about as well. Like, just being aware that there's other sides, and then just choosing the ones that you think are best for you and your close circle of people.
Because it's all just an opinion. We don't really know.
No.
Like,
and now we're really triggering people.
I know, dude.
Right now.
And the stuff that I go off on these like crazy YouTube videos at night, and I'm like down these rabbit holes, and I'm speaking to Joe Rogan, I'm like, what do you mean there's universes within universes? And so I love all that stuff. I love quantum physics. Speaking of yoga, this is another crazy sidebar. I did a retreat that was up in the Sierras, and I was part of this like yoga group in Long Beach called Yogalution. They're really, really cool. And there was a guy who was coming in for this retreat, but he was blind. And someone was like, hey, could someone pick him up from the train station? And I'm like, I'll pick him up. I don't know this guy from anything. And he's like, I'll be the blind guy with the pink backpack because I don't know what color it is. Super, super nice guy. Had no idea except I was going to be in my car with this dude who I didn't know for 5 hours driving to this retreat in the middle of the Sierras. Well, he's like one of the top quantum like physicists in the world. Wow. And so I'm sitting there like, dude, he's blind. The stuff he was telling me blew my mind basically for 5 straight hours. And then we hung out for a week, and then I drove him back, and I was like, dude, this has been one of the coolest things I've ever experienced. Like just
that's badass.
Being with this guy. So anyways, I love all that stuff. I love the fact that like you can have a certain fear that's stuck in you from your parents, your grandparents, and you were able to work through that.
And I think it's important also to caveat all of that by saying, because I'm sure my parents are going to listen to this as well, like, you know, everyone just wants what's best for you, right? Your parents want what is best for you.
I want what's best for my kids,
exactly.
For sure.
But the issue is like, do you know what's best for your kids necessarily? Like, at a certain point, if you were raised one way in one society with your parents telling you one thing, and your kid's raised in a different time, in a different area, in a different society with different opportunity, and you're pushing those, you know, expectations on this child right here, I think it just all... You know, I never knocked my parents for anything they did. And they've been incredibly supportive.
Dude, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They did an amazing job. Both of them, shout outs to both of them. This is where I know that parents do a great job. Even if your child's not going to do what, quote unquote, you wanted them to do, when you can put out, because children are products of their environment, when you can put out a product that's good, that has a good heart, that understands empathy, that wants to help others, you've won as a parent. Like, and I talked this deeply with my wife because, you know, I loved baseball. I was a very, very talented athlete. And my son that isn't really jamming with baseball. And my wife's like, why aren't you pushing him harder? And I'm like, because I don't want to. Yeah. I go, he's really good at swimming and really good at jiu-jitsu. So like, let's figure that part out. Like, I want to support them in what I see them talented at and that they love. Like, I'm not going to steer them in any direction that I don't feel like they're going to be successful at. And even if your dad thought that you were going to blow it by like slinging breadsticks for a little while, like, I'm still going to support my kids. Like,
sure.
But like, your dad had these super old school belief systems from his parents and his parents. So like, you were able to break a cycle. I was able to break a cycle in my family's life. So like, that kind of stuff is fun for me. Plus kids are so individual. Like, my 6-year-old and 4-year-old, polar opposites.
Totally different.
One's wants to be a scientist, wants to be an architect. The other one, I'm pretty sure, wants to be like a cage fighter. So like, they're totally different, and they're very different energies, and they're both from the same parents, and they're both boys.
How cool is that though, right?
Dude, it's amazing.
It's exciting. Like, I'm excited to have kids. Like,
dude, it's the greatest thing ever. And I was leaving the hospital with my wife with our firstborn, and I was 36 years old. And I'll never forget this. I'm driving over like the speed bumps at like 0 miles an hour, and I'm all careful. And I turn back and look at my wife because she's in the back seat with the baby. And I go, you have no idea how happy I am that I am 36 and not 26.
Oh, God.
Because my parents had me at 26.
Oh, man.
Could you imagine having a kid right now?
Absolutely not.
I would come to San Diego and punch you in the face. Like, dude, whatever you do not do that. I'm just a firm believer in, like, after 30, that's different.
That's the ideal. Obviously, you can't choose, but you can make decisions.
You can make wiser decisions to not have that.
Yeah, Mom, don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry. He's in San Diego, though, Mom. Worry a little.
We'll edit that part out.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I used to live down there. So my parents divorced when I was 4, and my dad stayed in San Diego because we actually left Long Beach for just a couple years and went down there, and then my mom came back to Long Beach.
Okay.
So I was in Long Beach and San Diego.
I didn't know that. Okay, cool. So you're in San Diego.
Life.
Okay.
Dude, I know San Diego like the back of my hand.
Very nice.
And one of my stepmoms, actually 2 of them still live down there. One of them is a big investor, is a humongous real estate investor, which I should definitely link you up
Connect
with.
us, yeah.
For sure. She's a beast. She's awesome. But like, that's the thing with parents and kids. Like, you don't really know how they're going to shake out. I just think when you come from a loving and supportive environment, you're going to be okay.
But even the flip side of that is true as well, right? I was having this conversation with someone the other day. Like, a lot of people that I know, and, us, myself included, like, everyone has family problems, right? Everyone has
I'll talk to my dad.
Yeah, exactly. And we had bouts of months or years where the same thing happened with us as well.
Of course.
But I think, honest to God, just like the cancer, just like things that all seem like this is the end of the world, how God, why me? It's just like you're growing thicker skin and not saying my parents did, but just any kind of rejection or any kind of problems that I had as a child growing up, whatever it is, that just made me, whenever I got into the real world and people started telling me to,
that you suck,
fuck off. That's whenever I was asking them for business.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool. On to the next one. Or most people that are coddled and taken care of from childhood with a silver spoon in their mouth all the way to when they graduate college, and all of a sudden they go out there and the real world hits them in the face. So that's why when I tell people, I get on a lot of my YouTube videos or Instagrams, people message me, I'm dealing with these family problems, I'm dealing with problems with whatever, my spouse, and it's just like, these, you have to reframe them, just like I talked about the happiness advantage. You kind of got to reframe them like, this is just preparing me for
what's next.
What's the gentleman that does the crazy athlete stuff? He's like, he does all the long run marathons.
Goggins?
Yeah.
Dude, that dude's a beast.
He talks about the reason why he runs 30 miles when he wakes up in the morning is not for the 30 miles when he wakes up in the morning. It's so that when he gets a call at 3 a.m. that his mom passed away, he's there and rock solid. It's just callous. That's essentially what it is.
He's prepared for anything.
Exactly.
Here's the thing that I've learned in my short term on this earth. I don't learn shit from my wins. I don't learn anything except they feel good.
Uh-huh.
All the losses, all the heartache, all the pain is where all the growth happens. I talked to my wife about it this morning. I'm like, babe, I go, nothing is going to come from winning every single fight. And you see those fighters, actual fighters that do that, they get smoked their last couple of fights.
Mm-hmm. Complacent.
They're complacent, and then they got broke. They've never been broke before. There's so much that goes into that, which I absolutely love. So yeah, to your point, if you have a bad childhood, you use it as fuel.
Yeah.
If you have a good childhood, you still kind of use it as fuel. So that's the thing. There's so many different angles you can go, which is again why I love real estate. Real estate is such a versatile industry. You could do lead gen for some of the biggest companies in real estate, and you're technically a computer nerd.
Yep.
But you're doing massive things in hard asset.
Well, the cool part about it too, that is the good point about real estate, was we started doing lead generation for real estate. Then I started seeing some of the guys, I have a guy in Carmel, California.
And you're giving them these smoking deals. These are for me first.
He had about 128,000 in commissions the first 5 weeks we worked together. And I was like, well, I don't have to be a mathematician to know what you paid me and what you. So then I was like, well. And then I ended up opening up a brokerage in the state of Florida. And so now I have a brokerage in the state of Florida as well. And that's when now we're in that side of the game as well. Not only do we generate the leads, but also now we have agents that will actually field the leads and close the deals as well. And then now I'm getting the real estate investing side.
That's how I got into syndication. I was tired of handing these deals to my investors. And they're making a couple $100,000. Through wholesale.
Yeah.
Or they would hold it. They'd put together their own syndications and they'd make $1 million in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I made my $15,000 or $20,000. I'm like, I'm gonna do this too. Mm-hmm. So again, through the pain, I decided to just jump. And I actually love what you said earlier about something about actions. You go before you're ready.
Oh yeah, imperfect action.
Imperfect action.
Yeah. Action. One of my favorite quotes is action leads to insight more often than insight leads to action.
Yeah, and that's how I am. I have gear 1 and gear 6. So I'm all in, and I'm like, wait a minute, what are we doing again? I got way ahead of myself.
Sure.
So I'm an action-based person. If I get bummed or depressed, that's when I start becoming more internal and analytical. And that is a red flag for everybody around me. I'm like, you see me shutting down and be like, oh, I'm just going to whiteboard for a couple of days. Something's broken. So I love to empower them to call me out. So that's the thing, is you just got to go.
Yeah. And figure it out.
Just figure it out.
And you write down worst case. For me, when I started traveling, I was always waiting for that perfect time to start traveling and go to South. I was in Medellin, Colombia for almost 4 months. And I was like trying to find the perfect time to actually go travel. And then I was like, I'm telling everyone else to take action. And here I got to wait until my rent's up. And then I got to make sure like my car is taken care of. And I got to make sure everything's buttoned up here in the business. And I'm like, whatever, man. Next day, I booked a one-way ticket to Medellin, Colombia. It was the day before my birthday. I was supposed to be there for a few days. Ended up staying there for 4 months. One of the most eye-opening experiences I've ever had in my whole life. And like, nothing broke. Nothing. Nobody died. Everything was okay. Like, it's just like, once again, we go back to the fears that other people put on top of you, or even that you have yourself. And once you start smashing through those fears, then when the fear pops up, you're just so much more aware, like, oh, that's just literally my head. Yeah, get out of my way. Like, that's just literally my head putting that inside of me right now because it's afraid. The way our brains are wired is an evolution is to keep us protected. So, like, the reason why I was awful at business the first 6 months, I mean, I'm talking about awful at business the first 6 months I was in it, was because I was so afraid of what my brain didn't want me to email people, cold call people, door knock, you know, solicit. I don't, what if they don't like me?
What if they don't like me?
What if they don't like me, right? And then I realized like that I identified that after self-reflection and me going into debt, and if they hadn't figured it out, and then I changed it.
Now I have to.
Yeah, now you're back against the wall, and so I had to end up doing it, and that is now what I teach my students, what we teach our salespeople as well. Is just like, look, that you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And the cool part about it for me is that majority of the people listening to this, majority of people in the world, they love that term. Oh, get comfortable being uncomfortable, but no one's going to do it, right?
Nope.
Which means the guys like you and I who actually thrive in that kind of chaos and that environment, it's just more room for us. Like, I don't. And
that's why I give all my shit away for free. Like, all my biggest secrets are like, this will change your business. Here it is.
Yeah.
A, B, C,
They're not going to take action
on
it. They're not going to take it.
They're like, Andy, thank you so much. You're welcome. I'm like, I know you. You're not going to do anything with it. So like that again is just, you're not going to learn shit from being happy all the time. Like, you're never going to be happy all the time. It's never going to be shitty for a long period of time. Life is this constant ebb and flow. It's this constant up and down, up and down. What are you building? What are you trying to create?
It's a heartbeat. Entrepreneurship is really a heartbeat.
Yeah, and I think it was Dan Fleischman posted something. I think it was yesterday, the day before. I screenshot it and actually shared it on my thing. It said something to the effect of, because it was like a heartbeat thing. It was like peaks and valleys. And they're like, so this is life. It's up and down, up and down, up and down. If it's not doing that, you're dead.
You're dead, yeah.
Like, and it's so simple, but it's so true. Like, if you're not, that's why, and again, this drives my wife bananas because she's very much like even keel. Her 2 favorite words are safe and secure. And she married me, which is like the opposite. So I like to risk stuff and do stuff and try new things and create businesses. And she knows when I'm in like create mode, it's going to be interesting for a few months because I'm all in. And there was just a huge announcement today, which we were talking about before we turned the cameras on. And I literally thought it was a week away, and I thought I had more time to let some of these people know. But even though like there's some hard conversations I have to have after like this thing wraps, what am I going to do about it? Sit in my fucking office and cry? No. You go have the hard conversations, and that's it. That's why I love the book Pitch Anything. Yeah. It talks about framing and frame control, where it's like, okay, I lost my frame control. It already went public to the whole world. So I can't control the dialogue, but I can control what I do from this point. So many people get stuck in that. Like, what should I do? And what if they think this? So what?
And then even once you start making progress in it, I also think it's kind of interesting because like I even have to catch myself now complaining about like, you know, my American Express bills now a week are like levels that like give me anxiety when I look at it sometimes, or client complaints, or Facebook ads shutting down 250 of our clients' accounts and over a weekend. That just happened to me as well. Literally last 48 hours, it just happened to me. And I literally had to stop and remind myself, and I'm like, I asked for it, right? Like I literally asked for all of this stuff.
I tell people all the time, be very careful
what you ask for, what you wish for. It's true. You can't have all of this. I can't be this guy that I want to be and have all the success that I want to have and just expect it all to be like cake and amazing and Instagram worthy all the time. Like you got to understand, like there's going to be times where you're like, did I make the right decision doing this? Like
sometimes, yeah, I go through it monthly,
all the time.
I'm like, I'm shutting this down. This is ridiculous.
I'm going back to yoga,
and then I'll get totally. And I talk about this constantly. And then I'll get a DM from somebody that's like, "You changed my life."
Exactly.
And I'm like, "Okay, back at it."
Back at it.
So for me, it's that same thing. And I would love to sit across and be like, "I'm 42 years old. I'm almost 43. Don't worry, because it's going to be super easy when you're my age. Nope. It's just as hard. Same amount of anxiety.
And now you have a wife and a family. You know, I can't even imagine. That's why I'm like.
Dude, I was talking to my buddy yesterday because we were just driving this property, and he's 28. He's a hustler. Like, dude's killing it. I think he owns 11 doors right now.
Nice.
And he's doing really well in the space of real estate. And from the first day I met him, he was a hustler. I was like, you're coming with me and I'm going to help you. And he's like, really? So I've been helping this kid. Awesome guy. And he's like, dude, I'm so stressed out. I've got all these deals and pendings. I got $100,000 onto all this stuff. And I go, throw in a big fight with your wife in the morning. Throw in your kid's sick and you didn't sleep all night. Throw in like a thousand things I could come up with. And he's like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, you adapt.
Yeah.
What you do is you create more capacity. That's why my morning routines are so important. I sit in meditation. I sit in gratitude. I fucking work out like a crazy person. I eat really clean, and that creates the capacity. Then I hang out with my kids. It fills my heart up. So before I even turn my business brain on, like I'm physically, mentally, and spiritually charged.
Yeah, you're prepared for it.
I'm prepared for the day. I create the capacity because of the life I've chose is entrepreneurship, and I have multiple businesses, and it's just fire all day. People don't call me like, Andy, you're awesome. You're the best. Thank you so much. It's like, this is falling apart.
This is wrong.
What do we do?
Is it Max? What do I say all the time? I'm like, entrepreneurship, all you're doing in entrepreneurship is you're a firefighter. Like that's the only thing. You wake up in the morning, and that's why I heard you say at the last event too, and I relate with it a lot. Like, I do not touch my phone until 9 o'clock in the morning. That's right. And I get up at 5 and like meditation, gratitude, working out, like running, sitting outside, reading, writing. And then like by the time I'm all like, oh, man, I'm in the best time of my life. Now let's see what the world has to hit me with.
Dude, 100%. And I work with a lot of high level male and female, like crazy entrepreneurs. It's the biggest thing for me to get them to do. It's your time. When you start becoming selfish with that time, you can produce more income.
Sure.
But it's so important. I tell them all the time, after like a week or so of doing it, I'm like, did your empire crumble? No. Are you a little happier? Are you getting better sleep? Are you having better sex? Because you're not waking up in a stress ball, going to sleep with this in a stress ball.
I hate when I see in the morning like someone like laying and they look at their phone as soon as they wake up. They look at Instagram and I'm just like, your brain has like, it's either beta or alpha. Or I'm not a scientist, so don't quote me on this, but it's like right when you wake up, your brain is still trying to process, is this reality or is this dream? And then you pull up Instagram as the first thing you do, and then you look at someone who's with like 30 models and they're on a yacht and they have money thrown in the air, and
they're totally rich for sure.
Yeah,
it's all real.
Definitely real. None of it's
bro.
fake. You can't fake any of that.
No
shot.
No.
And then they're just like compare it immediately to their own life, and that's how you start. And that's how you start the day. It's not paining me to actually say it right now myself. And yeah, at the beginning of it, I think it's Ed Milet that says if you can get some kind of semblance of control in the beginning of your day and some kind of semblance of control at the end of the day, it makes the middle a little bit easier.
Because it's the only thing you can actually control. Shout outs to Ed Milet. Ed's the homie. He's a super good friend of mine.
Ed's a great guy. Yeah.
Great human being. And it's true. Like, you can control the beginning and you can control the end. There's so many variables to the whole entire middle. Like, I get curveballs all day. And sometimes it's curveballs with my wife and kids and like the home, where it's like my wife's company. She's a crazy entrepreneur in her own right. She owns 3 speech pathology clinics.
Oh, wow.
1 Garden Grove, Long Beach, Harbor City. Just the Long Beach location sees 900 kids a month.
Oh my gosh.
She deals with kids, with like speech delays and kids, with special needs. Has a very busy practice. And then you throw on top of all the other stuff that we're doing, we're busy.
Must be cool for your kids, man. You guys have a nice, like, I'd be cool to grow up with and like see that kind of both sides of it as well.
I just got goosebumps because this just happened last night. It was really cool. So Jackson was supposed to go to bed, and he snuck out of bed, right, and came to my office on the other side of the house. My wife's in the kitchen, so I'm there and I'm looking at these deals. There's crazy bankruptcy deals I was looking at, and he comes in. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just looking at these real estate deals. And he goes, I want a real estate. I'm like, cool. So he's got his paper and he's drawing stuff, and I'm looking at my deals and he's talking to me. I'm not really paying attention to him, and he's supposed to be in bed. I'm going to get in trouble because he's in my office. And I look down. He drew a picture of my face that's on this letter that I send out to like these investors. He used my DRE number and did it correctly and made this little thing. And he wanted to sell this house for $54,000, and he had it like all wrote out. And I'm like, we're going to start your first company. It's going to be called Jackson Inc. And he was like stapling papers, and he was like super into it. It's going to be so fun for me to be able to explain to them like why it's so cool to work for yourself.
Sure.
And he also gets to see me home at 3:00. He also gets to have me take him to school, be the coach of all of his teams, when I'm sure a lot of like the other dads can't do that. So that's a big thing. I think it's that rich dad, poor dad whole thing that changed my whole perspective. And I always wanted to do that stuff before I even read that book. But after I read that book, I was like, now I'm just being a dick if I don't.
Yeah, now you have the information. You're just being lazy at that point.
That's right.
You're just being lazy for the people around you. You got to help yourself so that you can help your kids, your parents, your wife, whatever else it is.
Dude, 100%. This has been incredible. Where can everybody, find you? But like, where are some of the things that you're looking to do and grow over the next maybe 12 to 24 months? Because you're in San Diego and you do a bunch of stuff. Maybe give us like a little bit of a forecast of what you're doing, and then close with how they can reach out to you, especially if they want to do some lead gen stuff or if they want to work with you directly.
Awesome. I'll start this off by saying thank you for having me here.
Dude, of course.
This was awesome, man. This was a lot of fun.
Very cool.
We talked a lot about it, a bunch of different things. I don't even
That's
know
how we roll.
Touch on it. I don't even know we're going to touch on all this stuff.
We just like throw out cards.
Anything that sticks. Yeah, I love it. No, I've been a total blast. I think you're an awesome guy. I think the stuff that you're doing and the value you provide for everyone that listens to you, watches you, you and I, like we said before we turned the cameras on, like I love the value first model where it's just like, if you give me money, that's great, but hey, here's everything you need to know.
That's right.
And somehow you end up making more money than the people that
Always.
are like, pay me first. So love that about you, and thank you for having me on here. Next 12, 24 months is going to be really, really interesting. Like I said, we're moving a lot heavier into actual real estate investing. Personally, on my side, my goal is to have at least 10 doors myself only in the next 24 months, which I'm pretty excited.
That's
I think I'm pretty sure it's pretty reasonable now that I'm like about to get 4. And then the other thing is both my lead generation company and my business accelerator company, both of those, we're looking to take on about 200 people, new clients per each company in the next 24 months,
nice.
which will double what we had done in the last year.
Perfect.
So super excited for that. And myself personally, I just want to be around like this, stuff like this. This is what I like, all the other names that we dropped in here. Like this is kind of me stepping more into, I think the people you're around, I mean, the old adage, right?
Everything.
It's huge, right?
It's
You know what I mean? And like the reason I moved from Florida to here was this exact same reason you and I are sitting at this table right now, so I can do more of this. So the next 24 months, just on a whole general scale, is just being around more top producers. I want to be the dumbest and poorest guy in every single room I walk into. Like, that's my number one goal. So that's what I want to do. If you're a real estate agent or a real estate investor, whatever it is, you want to learn a little bit more about lead generation, either Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, I gave out, just like Annie was saying, we teach you how to do everything for free, like totally for free. You can do everything A to Z on either YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. My first and last name, Ravi Abuvala. If you want to talk about how we can do it for you, totally full time, you can go to our company's website. It's prospectsocial.com, and that's where we can actually run all those leads for you and just give you fully booked appointments for everything.
Dude, I love it. And you guys should probably just hire him, because you and I both know, and yes, I'm talking to you that's listening right now, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. He could tee you up the biggest, fattest meatball of a buyer. You'll get to him 3 hours later, and you won't follow up. They'll say no, and that's it. Like 1 or 2 touches is like maximum for these people.
Oh, it's 1.3 is the average, right?
I know,
we have the numbers. 1.3.
I know, it's terrible. And it's like 8 is the conversion
number.
Yeah,
6 to 8. Dude, you know the numbers. Yeah, 6 to 8 is what we see. 1.3 is what the average real estate agent does.
And the ones that do 6 to 8 annihilate.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
It's not even, it's almost like this weird game of like darts. You're like, okay, this is number 4. They're already getting super warmed up. A couple more darts and it's over. And here in Southern California, that's like 20 grand, 30 grand. You're paying like a few $100 for these leads, and you're getting like multiple 5-figure returns. But I don't want to buy leads. Okay, then go create your own.
Oh my God, don't talk to me about it.
Dude,
I don't want to buy leads. I don't want to.
I can't. I want to buy more.
Yeah.
How do I buy more
exactly,
leads?
Sure.
I want to do less of the other thing and just buy more leads.
Buy more leads. It's easier that way.
It's so much easier. So, dude, I'm going to turn this thing off so we can go into some business real
Sure.
quick. Awesome having you on the show, brother. Thank
Pleasure.
you so much. Follow this guy. Go check him out. His company's legit. I'm so glad you didn't become an attorney. See you guys next time.